Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming in. I know that it is post-lunch, so we got to keep the energy up so people don't get the itis. We had some delicious Mexican food, so ready to kick things off. But like she said, Danielle Mills Walden, super excited to be here with Marri and excited to talk to you about something that is really passionate for me. Really quick, just a little bit about me. I've been in the industry almost 10 years. Prior to being in the industry, was a professional tennis player. Don't know how I ended up in auto, but I'm really thankful to be here with all of you and to talk about how we can kind of modernize things and really change the perception of how we're doing things. Really quick, want to give a quick intro?
Marri Stokes, Leif Johnson board. I'm the operations director. I've been there for this will be my 26th year at the same dealership. So I started right out of high school, and I've had all kinds of roles, but pretty much all of my roles have been within that digital space.
Lovely. And just to kind of like kick things off, you know, everybody in this room today is connected to auto, and if you're a dealer in this room or you are a vendor who works with a lot of dealers, there are a lot of challenges that you've been facing and your dealers have been facing. So just to kind of talk through a couple of these challenges. Number one is decreased affordability. We talked about it. Interest rates are high. Customers are not accustomed to going into these dealerships, and they think that they are going to trade in their vehicle and think that their payment's going to be similar to what they're accustomed to, and they're kind of getting this rude awakening when they get in there, and they're like, wow, I'm going to be paying a couple $100 more than I anticipated. So that's a challenge that you guys are overcoming. Another thing is the fact that the car buyer is rapidly evolving with the millennials, which are now becoming older, and now it's the Gen Zers that are coming in and starting to make their first vehicle purchase. So if your experience is not something that they're going to resonate with, that's going to cause you to have a lot of issues. And another thing that is something we're all dealing with right now is the fact that the market is very uncertain. We got the Fed raising the rates, we have election coming up, there's a lot of different things that are happening in the market that are not in our control, that are impacting customers. And then lastly, your margins are continuing to decrease. You're trying to find different areas that you can, be profitable. And a lot of that is tied to what we're going to talk about. But Marri, kind of, as we're looking at all of these different challenges that, everybody in this room and yourself are experiencing in your own market, out of everything that we're kind of talking about here, what is a couple of things that you've been seeing in your market, and kind of how are you overcoming some of these challenges that we're seeing?
So I was thinking about this question prior to, and I think that after COVID, we kind of talk about after COVID, I just think that this is our new normal. Like the dealership world is just different nowadays, and it just continues to be when strikes and being able to get parts or inventory or affordability with things rising, it's just different. So I think for us, it's all of these things, but it's kind of getting out of the old ways and getting into new ways of doing things and trying to do it the most efficient, the best way with the best customer service. So we face these problems on a pretty regular basis, but the uncertainty of the market really kind of puts us for a loop, because do we advertise, do we not, do we put our money here, do we not? So we're on a kind of constant new normal for our industry, which is, I'm pretty sure, is most people.
Definitely. And when you speak about a lot of the challenges, I know there's an area that I definitely want to spend a little bit of time on. It's an area that I'm extremely passionate about, and Marri, you're passionate about it as well, is the concept of connected retail. We've talked about it a lot of people in the room or companies that are here speak about it, but it's a broken process that we have to address. And I think that this is a perfect place to kind of attack it head on and really get into it. So essentially when I'm referring to connected retail, I'm meaning like if a customer is going to start on your dealership's website and pick a vehicle out, they're going to maybe plug in their PII, pick a vehicle out, maybe they're going to enter their trade information, maybe they're going to play with their payment. If that customer decides to get distracted with their kids or something that's going on and they go home and then they decide, okay, well, I'm going to go into the dealership now. If they go into that dealership, whoever greets them, whether it's the salesperson, the front desk, whoever it is that person who's greeting them going to be able to offer them the ability to pick up where they left off? Are they going to be able to acknowledge the steps that this customer has already completed, or are they going to basically treat them as if they're a brand new customer and like, hey, what are you here to do? And it's like, that's the disconnect that Gen Z buyer is experiencing, because in every other aspect of what they're doing, that is the experience they're used to. They're used to feeling like somebody is aware of all those steps. So that's the process I want to talk a little bit about, and the fact that the online to in-store connection is very broken in majority of dealerships. And if your process isn't broken, I feel like it's an opportunity for you to stand out and differentiate yourself, because it is in so many of the dealerships that I walk into and work with my teams. But Marri, when you kind of talk about the customer who starts online and finishes in store, or a customer that starts in store and wants to maybe finish the process online, what are some things that you've done in your own dealership that have kind of attacked this head on? And is this something that you were intentional about when you were wanting to kind of change that perception?
So we've always been a pretty innovative dealer. And I remember our dealer, when websites were first coming out, we had a live cam into our dealership that would just watch us. It was like watching a giraffe at the zoo or something. It was really crazy, but we've always kind of had this innovative type way. So one of the things that we started talking about long before COVID was we really want to be able to meet the customer where they are, wherever that is. And before going at a lot of the conferences, it was all like, you got to get online, you got to give customers this kind of experience, look at Carvana. We would just constantly talk about this, but for us, our customers were very much telling us how they wanted to purchase, and nothing was similar except the fact that most customers wanted to be able to control the process. So we were like, let's give them all the tools to do that. So we went all online, and that didn't work. So we went all in store, and that didn't work. What we ended up doing is we developed our own digital sales department. So don't think BDC. Think of a team that is able to take a customer however far they want to go online, and then whenever they get in store, everything's ready to go for them. So whether that's, we have a little bit of information, just their name, their phone number, and what time they're going to be here, or we have all of their information, everything's ready to go. They want to see the car, smell it, want to, make sure that it's everything that they thought it was going to be. We know from online surveys and whatnot that 80% still want to go in store. So we do everything that we can using Upstart, using the tools that we have. Our website provider, AutoFusion, has customized so many different things to be able to meet the customer wherever they are. So that when that customer walks in the door, we find out, we know who they are typically, but then if they walk in and they've been shopping online, they need to tell us or whatnot. We just ask them, where do you want to start? What do you want to do? So we try to customize each customer with a bespoke experience for wherever they want to be.
No, that's so important, because if you meet the customer where they are, whether they want to do all of it themselves, very little of it themselves, like you're catering to that, and that really speaks to the importance of that customer experience. Taking it a step further, kind of talking about like a digital experience. I'm curious, and let's get the audience a little bit involved here, a little bit engagement. I'm wanting some of that, but I'm curious in the room, if anybody's a dealer in the room, or if you're, a vendor who has a dealer that they think of, like, is there anybody in the room who is presenting numbers digitally on the showroom floor? And I'm curious if anybody is doing that today, or, over here. And then Brian, do you have a?
He's posted.
Well, what's your name, and talk to me about what you're doing.
Goodness.
Oh, they have a mic coming for you real quick. Repeat that.
Yeah, my name's Phil Gill with Tom Gill Chevrolet, and hello. So we've been doing that for about 3 years now, and it's a really cool experience. Basically we went to our salespeople being empowered to do that first set of numbers and talk through the rebates with the customer, be able to choose within frameworks, certain terms, conditions, all that sort of stuff, and really work with the customer to find a payment and solution that worked for them. We've kind of built that over time and we're taking it to the next level soon. But it's been a really nice process for our people and our customers to speed things up and make sure that there's a transparency there. And the cool thing is that you can send that right to the customer when they leave the showroom. If they choose not to buy a car, you have a lot of trackability of what they're doing and thinking. So it really helps kind of extend your process back out in line once they're completed.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for that. You have a wedding coming up. And then one other follow-up question to ask you. You said that you're presenting numbers digitally. Are you doing that today on a tablet, a device, a desktop? What's the form that your sales team is using to present those numbers?
Yeah, so our hardware setup is all of our people are set up with Microsoft Surface Pros.
Okay.
And then they've also got a big second screen that's like monitor that's touch screen as well. So they can, kind of depending on where they're in the showroom, can use whichever device that they see fit.
Okay. One last question. You have a question?
Yeah, no, we're right in that same boat where that's how we're presenting things. But I think that for us, just to extend that, is what we find is most people, it's not really the in-store experience, although it is. It's the remote experience that we're really working on. It's that in between. It's not the minute customer is just starting to shop or after they're in the store and they finalize everything, because we've made that very, very efficient. It's the in between. What's my trade worth? What about financing? Can you please send me your driver's license and insurance, right? It's all in that in between that's really kind of set us apart when it comes to the remote part of it and being able to handle things remotely. We talk about it that way because online we think they do everything, right? We don't mess with the customer other than give them their keys, but we do a lot of interaction online. I mean, probably 80% of our interaction is online, where it's back and forth, helping customers find things, look for things, get payments, whatever that case is, we guide them.
Yeah, absolutely. One last question for you, because I'm really intrigued about what you had said. How long ago did you implement this digital first penciling, and what was it like getting your team kind of bought into that? Just curious from your perspective before we continue.
Yeah, I mean, it was a process. We started implementing it, like I said, it was about 3 years ago now. It was actually right before COVID, like it was the fall before COVID, so 19, so maybe almost about 4 years ago. The process of transition was, it was a lot to get the people on board and thinking a different way, used to it, but a lot of things we did that really helped with that is, I was able, with a couple of my team members, to take our entire sales process, relate it to the tool that we were using, and write up an entire process, step by step, of when you use the tool, when you don't use the tool. And so it was really set out to where it was plug and play for them, so our salespeople had a better understanding of when they should be using it and when they shouldn't be using it. And then it was fine tuning from there, right? You're going to obviously run into hiccups and uncertainties as you start doing it, and you just tackle them as they come up.
Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Talk about audience participation. That's awesome. We appreciate you. Well, you kind of touched a little bit on what we're about to kind of dive into next, which is the importance of truly having a connected platform. So when I work with dealers across the country, my team, a lot of people are apprehensive to making big changes when it comes to making their dealership more digital, making it more customer-centric, because they're thinking like, what about all these different systems that the team's gonna have to have logins for and know, and that creates apprehension, and it creates a team that doesn't want to change. I mean, you guys know when you implement anything new in your dealerships, there's always pushback. There's always somebody who's like, I don't want to do this. Why do I need to do this? Unless you can convince them that it's going to have some ease and comfortability through the process. So I would say, like, what's really important, and what I think everybody in here should really consider as we're making decisions, is ensuring that when you do pick a platform, you pick a platform that truly can encompass everything together. And if anything here is something that is important, that it's all integrated. So what do I mean by that? From the online standpoint, when the customer starts the process on the website, that is integrated with when they come into the showroom floor. They can pick it up on a tablet, a desktop, it's device agnostic. Then when we talk about those systems pushing and pulling into the CRM and the DMS, that's extremely important, because then we don't have to do double work, double entry. Then when we talk about financing, which is one of my favorite things at the moment, because that is the next level and making sure that that is all integrated. But lastly, making sure from a manager standpoint that you can truly view everything in one place and be able to see those metrics and see how your team is doing every step of the way. So if all of those things can be combined and encompassed together, your team won't feel like this is a big lift. And a lot of the pushback that I see and I hear is like, well, how is my team gonna buy into this? Why are they gonna make this change? What's in it for them? There's so much in it for them. It's going to save them time. It's also from the customer standpoint, it's going to be a better experience for them as well. So, Marri, I'm going to hit this over to you. When you were looking at, a solution that you wanted to work with, before you even made that decision, what were some of the things that were important to you, and kind of how did you land on a solution that kind of combined everything together?
So we've been using digital retailing tools since 2014, I think. So it's been a really long time. We've been early adopters of a lot of different things. We're in Austin, which is a very tech town. Like I said earlier, our company has always been very innovative. We've always been trying to think ahead. So it was time for us to get back into really trying to become more efficient and strategize and become better. But we realized in our town, which is we're a Ford dealer, and we have very large competition within our area, and everybody wants to know how you stand out. We are one of many family-owned and operated. We're one of many who has fantastic customer service, and so we really weren't standing out. And so it just became a price game for us. We wanted nothing to do with that. We wanted to be more than just the lowest price in town. So we started to look at, like I said, we had already looked at a lot of digital retailing tools. We had digital retailing tools, but I listened to a ton of podcasts. I was listening to Brian Kramer, who was using Upstart. And one of the things that he said is that not only did they go paperless, but they saved so much money in F&I cutbacks and chargebacks, and they also saved so much time per each manager. And for us as a dealership, to put a car deal together nowadays is it's twice as long as it's ever been, because of all the browsers that are open, all the regulations that we have to have, all the different pieces of paper that have to be at each deal. So I was looking for a way to streamline it and make it simpler for them. And every time no joke, every time I implemented some sort of program in our store, it's never gone well, and lots of pushback. But we went to Upstart. One of the things that really solidified it for our team was the fact that they also had financing integration. So CRM, yes. Digital retailing, yes. Online was great. In-store was great. But we had this opportunity to be able to kind of put it all together. So not just that, not just the customer coming in and doing the road to the sale, but when we're on the service drive talking to customers about would they be interested in selling their car, we have a tool that can plug right in to be able to get them payments and that sort of thing. So we can start anywhere in the process that we need to. Like I mentioned earlier, we say, where do you want to start, right? And the customer kind of guides us through that process. We really try to make it simple for them, but also very simple for our employees too. So when this came in, our management team was actually high-fiving us, because they were like, finally, a really easy tool that does, X, Y, and Z. So the financing part was huge for them, because they weren't re-entering information. They weren't having to send it to the DMs. They weren't having to do half the things that they were having to do. So it was a no-brainer for us to simplify the process and make it way more efficient, that the managers were completely on board with.
That's awesome. Can you also speak maybe a little bit about what the onboarding looked like, and were there any hiccups during that process, and what was that like?
So the onboarding, let me just say I've done a ton of those too, and they're interesting depending on the company, but Upstart was somebody who, and they're still are to this day, we've been with you guys for over a year. they come into the store and they work with us individually for our problems, for our struggles, the way we work, not, hey, here's the tool and here's how it works. But they come in and they say, how do you work this? How do you do it? And then they mold it around that. So I think that just like we have that kind of experience for our customers, Upstart had that experience with us. It made it a perfect partnership, I think.
Listen here. Yeah. And really, like, for everybody in this room, when you're thinking about not just a digital retailing tool or just basically any technology that you want to implement in your dealership, there are a couple key things that I think are really important for you to consider. Marri kind of touched on this, the fact that it integrates with your systems. When you have a really cool technology that seems really awesome, but then it doesn't integrate with anything that your store has, that's gonna, no matter how cool and innovative it is, it's gonna create friction, and ultimately this is a process game. It's getting the team to buy in and making it seamless. So if there's friction, that's gonna cause people to put it down and not do it. Secondly, you touched on this as well, but the fact that, like, make sure that the company you partner with is really going to be there from the training and onboarding standpoint. Are they going to actually see you in person, actually sit down with your team prior to implementation and have the right discovery questions as far as, like, what's important to you, what's your process? And I like to say this, and this is the third point, but, like, cater to the dealership's process, not have the dealership cater to the technology. Because I've been in worked in a lot of different companies and seen a lot of different products, and it's just so important that if you can cater to the dealership's process, it's going to stick a lot better. And then deliver measurables for your success, meaning having actual tangible data, tangible metrics that your success manager can review with you on an ongoing basis. And lastly, listening to your pain points. If there's not a pain point that the technology is solving, what is it really there for? Is it actually adding value? And you're looking at all the providers that you guys leverage, whether it be at your dealership, there's so many different solutions. Could you really look at each one and say, each one of these is actually solving a pain point that I have? And Marri, for you, like, did you have to make some, like, hard decisions around that? Because there is so many different technologies in the space to kind of see, like, what's really serving my dealer body, what's really serving the customers, and what makes sense.
So I think that about 2 years ago, we decided that we weren't always a dealer who wanted to be digital first, right? We were very much in kind of that we're still a dealer, but we want to stand out kind of space, right? So I think a lot of what dealers are facing now is, like, what train do I get on? Where do I go? And for us, what we implemented was a process called Lean, and this is in like Toyota and a lot of Ford kind of take this system where they go, if there's pain points, how do we reduce it? So, for example, our AutoFusion, our website tool, I called them and said, the big pain point I have right now is that everybody needs to order a Bronco, but I'm sending everybody to my OEM's website, which could possibly go to all my competitors. So they just built us a tool, right? That's the kind of partner that we needed to have, but that was a huge pain point for us to be able to have that. Other things is just things taking too long. So we go, how can we make this a little bit better? So we look at the technology and go, can this make us more efficient? Can this make us better? So we have a reservation. Now it's more about, we were getting way more stock, so now it's about getting that deposit in on a reserved car, right? So we have the 24 Mustang coming out. So there's so many people who don't want to order, but they want something that's coming in. And so we want them to be able to put a deposit on an incoming car. So we have that coming out, right? We have a part of our website is that they can pick their own salesperson. They don't have to just call in and get whoever. They can choose who they want. So we're constantly trying to think of ways for customers to have a much simpler, easier process that takes down not just the purchase time, but any other pain point that they have, right? Like, I'm already starting to think of, instead of a customer having to fill out 3 pages for a credit allocation, can we just get with Apple and have them do their face, right? Like, how can we do that? Next level stuff to be able to do that. So, I mean, now the whole point of every technology decision that we make is to reduce friction, to make it leaner, to make it simpler, because that cuts down employee collection time, cuts down our costs, and I mean, it serves every purpose that we have. But we're constantly looking at it like Steve Jobs used to say, like, how can we make this even simpler every time? So.
Well, absolutely. I love that. I wish we could just like scan our faces and not have to fill out credit apps. This coming, girl, this coming. I bet it is going to be coming. Really excited to kind of segue into the customer experience, because at ASOTU the goal is collaboration. We're talking about experiences, and what I want to harp on here is like, how do we get outside the box? How do we do things different than the norm? And I know something that you're really passionate about, Marri, is not just looking at what people are doing in the automotive space, because that's where we always stay tunnel vision, but sometimes in other industries, there's other disruptors and there's other things that are happening, and we can take a page out of their book and leverage it. So I'm curious, Marri, like, what are some things that you've been seeing and that you've been implementing in your store that are kind of from completely different areas?
So, like I mentioned, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So one of the podcasts I listened to was the general manager of the number one restaurant in the world, which is Madison. Well, they do it every year, but for a long time it was Madison on 7th in New York. And the story goes is that he was invited to the top 50 restaurants, and he got all dressed up and said, he just knew he was going to be called to be the number one. They had the most beautiful place. They had the best customer service. They were already a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I mean, they just had it down pat. Everybody they had months and months and months of reservations already. I mean, it was just easy to say that they were number one, and they came in 49th. And he was like, what? And it drove him to really go, okay, there's more to this than just all of these things, which really got me thinking. But the end of that story is how they became number one, and is he was in the store. How it started is he listened to this table, and they were talking about how they had visited the most amazing restaurants. They checked everything off their bucket list for New York as they were traveling there. The only thing that they hadn't done is they hadn't had a New York hot dog. So he ran out, got them all New York hot dogs, brought them in, had the chef, after much convincing, trying to put it on a plate that looked really nice, and he served it to them. And those kind of unreasonable expectations for customers is what brought him to the top. So we started to think that way. And honestly, what some of the things that we're doing is just, we had a customer who was flying in. He was very, very excited to eat at an Austin barbecue restaurant. Well, that kind of chimed with us, and we were like, well, we could have him come to the dealership and just have all of this barbecue laid out. But we realized that part of it is the experience of going to the place. So instead, we bought him lunch there. We took him, let him go. We didn't crowd in his time and his space, but we bought it for him. We gave him, and that just sent him over the edge of customer service. We had a father who was buying a Ranger for his son, and sort of like going off to college. The son had just got into the college of his choice, which was like Kansas City. So we spent the whole day looking for Kansas City stuff that we could put on the car. Obviously they could be taken off, but just something that gave that customer so much more than just a signing on an iPad experience. So we're really, really passionate about that. We look for every way that we can. We are right in the middle of trying to figure it out. So we have not figured it out. We are not number one in the nation, but we're really, really trying to go, how can we make this something so much bigger than just a good customer experience?
Yeah, wow. I didn't even know that story. That's awesome. And just to kind of hear the fact that like something that small would really resonate with that customer so much. And I know you and I are both big fans of Gary Vee, and people give him a really hard time because he still listens to a lot of the feedback that he gets in different videos he does, etc. And he'll read the comments and reach out to these people and Now, Elon does the same with like Twitter, or X, that's called now. But these are the things that really like change the experience for the customer and really make it that much more unique and that much more different. So I love to kind of hear that story and that analogy, which is just really awesome. And with that, I kind of want to go to a second round of questions. Based off of that, does anybody in the audience have an example of like a unique customer experience thing that they did that was like unique, or something that they want to share that really like kind of went above and beyond or did something that was different than what somebody else did in the past? Curious if anybody has an example or has a dealer with an example. If anybody has one, we can see.
We had
Oh, we have Ben Hadley in the front. He's got one.
asking her fill in the quiet spaces.
How long do you want me to go?
2 minutes.
All right, so
I'll give you a couple of different examples. One, I've been to 11 Medicine, and
Oh.
I can assure you that is still how they treat people. We were late for a flight. We didn't realize we were late for the flight. They realized it. They came over to our table and said, "You're gonna miss your flight, but don't worry. We've made you a bunch of treats for the that you can bring on to the plane. We knew you had a tree nut allergy, so don't worry, yours are fine. Here's also a bunch of gifts and swag and stuff that you can." It was like the craziest experience of my life. So I highly recommend the restaurant. The other restaurant I would actually point out to that was like an amazing experience, and this isn't just about great restaurant experiences, was and I'll tie it into Echo Park. There's a restaurant in Chicago that has a menu item that just says IDGAF. I'll let you figure out the acronym there. And what it reminded me of was that only works when you realize how chaotic a menu can look, right? Customers, I mean, actually, every Saturday night, my wife will say, "What do you feel like eating?" And I'll be like, "Well, what do you feel like eating?" And she'll go, "Well, I want something delicious, but I want it to be healthy. I want it to be fast." I'm like, "This is impossible." That's like literally an impossible thing to find. And so you go through the chaos of going through Google, looking for all these different options, and then you get like fighting. It's like clicking a Netflix movie is almost the same experience. They recognize that at this restaurant that chaos can be something that we can lean into. And so what they did to actually lean into the chaos, to win from the chaos, was they created this I don't give a F menu item, which essentially does this. You sit down, the chef goes, "All right, I get it. You have no idea what you want. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring out something. You're gonna give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you give me a thumbs up, I'm gonna bring more like it or something that pairs well with it. If you give me a thumbs down, I'm gonna pivot." So you get to turn off your brain and you get to just enjoy the meal, and you let someone else do the thinking for you. Someone else does the removable friction. I promise to tie this into Echo Park to make it a little bit more automotive. I was astounded when I found this out. It's a very similar concept. Echo has one trade-in app on their website. When you go into Echo Park, they have 5 different providers. Now, most of us would go, how can I eliminate as many providers as possible, streamline the bus, etc.? What they do is a little different. They go, okay, there's one that we really like. That's the one that we're on our website. But we know we can't control the customer. We know we can't control where they discover us and where they do a trade-in appraisal. So when that customer comes in and say they use, let's just be crazy, let's say they use KDB on the Echo site. When a customer comes in and says, well, I use Edmunds, they lean into the chaos and they go, "Oh, so let's do a walk. Let's actually walk the bar with Edmunds. We also love Edmunds, right?" Someone comes in with Black Book. They go, "Oh yeah, so do we. We love Black Book. Let's look." The numbers are never going to be that freaking different, okay? They're not going to be that far apart as long as you're doing that trade appraisal together. And I thought, oh my God, how many times have I seen a dealer try to choose between how do I want to do KBB? Do I do a package trade? Do I do Black Book? I don't know. I can only choose one. Maybe not. Maybe the better thing is to go and think to yourself, how many of these have my consumers already been exposed to? How can I lean into the chaos there? And it's my time to say, I could keep up.
Thank you, Ben Hadley, for your TED Talk.
Yeah, that's our TED Talk.
Yeah, welcome to my TED Talk.
Well, and I think that for us, is we're constantly thinking like that. I think that one of the things that I was thinking about as we were getting ready for this is that we've got one foot in the present and one foot in the future for most of our decisions that we're making. How am I serving my customer now, and how am I getting ready for the future? And it's ever evolving. It's constantly changing. We're constantly looking at, is this efficient? It used to be. Now it's not anymore, so we're gonna have to move on. So we're constantly looking at customer service, not customer experience first. I mean, how many of you have gone to Chick-fil-A? Right? Okay. So how many of you expect someone to say my pleasure? Right? And if they don't, you're like, are you okay? Is there something wrong? Right? Like, you expect that experience. For us, what we're learning in this is, like, in our market, I think Tesla sold 12,000 Teslas last month, right? We're not anywhere close to that right now on the EV sales. So our OEM is pushing us and going, okay, we've got to get, that's where the money is. People are going. But for us, we also have customers who call in the store, so we think, okay, they're all great online. They know how to buy a car online. We got a customer and we're like, would you like us to bring this to your home or your office for a test drive, or would you like to come in here? And they're like, can you do that? Yeah, we can. But that separation between us as the dealer and Tesla, or those customers or whatever, is so different that we're trying to bridge that gap, and we just assume that's what everybody does because everybody uses Amazon. And the questions that we get make us realize that we have to cater to each individual customer where they are, not a broad stroke, for sure.
Preach, Mary. It's so true, because when you were saying that, it was making me think of the disruptors in the space, the Carvanas, the Lithia driveways, the CarMaxes, and like, customers know that if you go in Teslas, like, if they go for that experience, they're gonna have one thing. But to your point, like, a lot of customers don't even realize they could have a similar or exactly the same or better experience at a dealer. And like, by you putting it out there, you're kind of catching them off guard, like, oh, I can do that. Like, that's something that exists. And I think that's something that all of us can learn in this room, that like, if we're not voicing that in our advertising, in our message, and our branding to consumers, they're not going to know. They're not innately thinking that a dealer is going to do these things. They're thinking, well, I got to go to Carvana to get that. So let's be mindful of that. And just to kind of takeaways from the talk today, a couple key things. Number one, you want to make sure that you have a connected experience, no matter what solution you do select, to make sure that it is completely connected from A to Z. It's all together. You want to find the right technology partner that is going to not only cater to your process, but be there every step of the way through that. And then lastly, you want to get creative. You want to see, how can I step outside the box and do things differently so that I am separating myself from all the other dealers who are still arguing about price, when really it shouldn't even be about price. You and I both know that, like, if the experience is right, customers care about price, but they won't care about it the same way that if we talk about the experience and what's so important about that. And any last words, Mary? I'm going blank. Any last things you want to leave the audience with, or any lasting words?
Yeah, I would just say that when I sit in the audience and I think, right, there's something that comes to mind, I think, oh, I could change that, I could shift that, I could do that. Like, two things. One is you can call me anytime, and I'm very open about our process and what we're doing, because we're not great, and I need other people to grow, and I need other people to learn from in order to expand and to learn. But I think that if you could just start thinking outside of the automotive norm. And a lot of times we kind of get on these waves, right? Like at the last conference I went to, the whole thing was about Google Analytics at GA4. I was like, is great, but golly, it's just another distraction from what I'm trying to get to on this platform, right? How do I get the customer to have an amazing experience on my website, in my store, at home, wherever that looks like, but as far as connected, right? Like the whole ownership experience. What does the whole ownership experience look like where they can use me as that source for service, for sales, for information? I'm thinking about going to EV. I don't even know what that looks like. What does it look like for my service team to go set up their house for all EVs? Right? What does that look like? So I would just tell you to dream big, ask a lot of questions, and definitely look outside of automotive to be able to see like what can I do to better this for everyone else.
Excellent. Well, that's all we have for you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being